Welcome to Between Frequencies, the space where science, spirit, and intuition meet in real conversation. I'm your host, Erin, and this podcast is here to explore the tools that help us navigate the unseen, the energetic, and often the unspoken parts of our human journey. Today's guest brings both power and precision to the spiritual path. I'm joined by Larissa, intuitive numerologist, angel oracle expert, and CEO of The Goddess Giving. With more than 2 decades of experience in the world of numerology, Larissa combines inherited wisdom from her Aunt Rita with her own intuitive fire to help others unlock their divine potential. She's not only a published author and resident numerologist on John Edwards' Evolve Plus app, but also the leader of a vibrant online community of over 800,000 people. Her approach makes numerology practical, accessible, and deeply empowering. No fluff, no mystery, and no gatekeeping. In today's conversation, we're diving into what numerology really is, how it can guide you in everyday life, and what it means to align with the patterns that already live within you. Whether you're brand new to the world of numbers or ready to deepen your spiritual practice, Larissa's grounded wisdom will meet you right where you are. Let's get between frequencies. Hello, Larissa. Thank you so much for joining me.
Wow, Erin, thank you so much. That was some intro. I really appreciate that. I was like, who is she talking about? Oh, it's me.
Well, I have to tell everybody, I found you on TikTok, like a lot of people, and I had a reading from you months and months and months ago, at a time when I was very unsure of things. And what I've told everyone is it's not like you handed me any answers. You kind of gave me perspective over a lot of things that I couldn't see because I was in the middle of it. And then you gave me insight into kind of pieces of my personality that I had attributed to not a big deal or nothing like that, but you gave me such great guidance that I am so excited to be here with you and help other people find you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I do remember our reading. A lot of times I don't remember the readings because, when you work in the spiritual space and you become a channel or a messenger, once that message goes through you, it kind of leaves you, right?
Yeah.
But my whole thing with numerology and when I do my readings, because every numerologist is different. The numbers are a compass. They're a guide for me. And then I allow spirit to lead. But I really feel very strongly that it is not my role to tell you what to do or how to do it. But I like to give you options that align with your numeric codes. Because if you're coming to me today, the energy that you're going through numerically may be very different in 6 months from now or a year from now. So I want to arm you with all this information, all this knowledge. But at the end of the day, I cannot impose my will on yours. I might see the right path. I might tell you this one feels more aligned or that one feels a little bit more difficult. But at the end of the day, your soul has to make the choice that your soul wants to make because you have to experience the lessons, not me. So, for example, I had a reading today and I saw very clearly that she is going to be working with sound bowls and that they wanted her to kind of go that path. And she was rejecting it a little bit. And that's okay, because I said to her, these are your 3 options. But at the end of all of these options, the sound bowl probably will be in the future, but you can start it now. I don't believe a psychic or an intuitive or whatever you want to call yourself has any right to say, listen, on October 1st, this is going to happen, because then you are interfering with the universe.
Absolutely. That's exactly how I feel. When I do sessions with clients, I tell them right off the bat, okay, I really hope you didn't come to me for a checklist on do this, do this, do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tap into your energy and I'm going to tell you what I'm feeling from my perspective to give you a different perspective on where you are. And sometimes that's just enough to help them see it. And while I am using my intuition and I am tapping into their energy, the field of possibility is so large. At least for me, I'm not predictive in nature. There's too many possibilities, too many variables, too many things going on. So I can see probability, right? I can see, like you were saying, I can see that this is something that's active in your energy, but I can also see there's all these other possibilities. And so I think that's a great point to make is when you're reaching out for help for someone from Larissa or myself, come with your questions, but keep an open mind, because often what you hear is not exactly what you thought you were going to hear. And your first reaction may be to reject it, but when you sit with it for a second, it really can bring some really clear information.
Yeah.
But I want to backtrack just a little bit because I did not know a lot about numerology at all until I had my session with you. So, for someone who doesn't know much about it, can you sort of break down for them what it is? It's been around a long time, right? It's not
Oh,
new, it's very old. So, kind of let people know what that is.
so numerology, and here's what's important to know. There's different forms of numerology. You have Western numerology, you have Chinese numerology, you have matrix numerology, which is also known as destiny numerology, and you have Hebrew numerology. There's more, right? So
Right.
anytime you go to a numerologist, you're going to get a different reading on the numbers based upon what they've been trained in. So I come from Western numerology, which is Pythagoras. It's every letter has a sound, has a number code, and it's based upon your birthday and your birth given name. A lot of people will say to me, Larissa, I changed my name. I didn't know my name. I was adopted. It doesn't matter. Whatever you entered into this world with, the name on that birth certificate, that is the first lesson the soul is here to learn. And every name after that is a sub lesson. So, what I like to do is I look at your numbers, whether from your birthday, your life path, your destiny numbers, your name numbers, and it's this beautiful story. For example, I just had a reading earlier today, and her life path is, a 7. But then all of her name energy was a master 11 too. And that's so it's not just about your life path, but it's about all the numbers in your soul chart. You have a numeric code, and your name and your birthday is the key to that code and unlocking it. And you really need to have a numerology reading done at some point in your life because a good numerologist will read the whole chart, not just one number. You
Right.
are more than one number. But for someone who's listening and they're just getting started, if I can leave you with anything today, the most important number would be your life path. And the way that you calculate your life path is you add your birth month and your birthday and your birth year to a single digit. And in numerology, you have to keep reducing down until you reveal a number between 1 and 9, because we go in 9 cycles. Unless you reveal an 11, 22, or 33, we do not reduce further. That makes you master energy. And let me tell you, master does not always mean better. It's actually quite the opposite. Master energy walks a much more intense life path. And that life path tells you what you need to be doing to fulfill the path of your purpose, to fulfill your mission and what's going to bring you happiness and joy in your life. I am a life path of a 1. The ones are starters, they're risk takers. They are the original independent teachers, visionaries, and thought leaders of the world, but they came here to start something original and use their creative energy and their voice to impact other people and help other people. So a 1 can never be micromanaged. A 1 will always have an entrepreneurial spirit. A 1 is someone like me. How many people can say they're an intuitive numerologist? Like
Right.
they take what they've learned, but what people don't know is I have an elementary school degree. I'm an elementary school teacher. I have a master's degree. I was in education for a long time, and I started as a teacher. And I learned the foundation of teaching and the principles of teaching. But then somewhere around the age of 35 to 42, that soul is going to have its very first awakening. And if you are listening, I want you to think about between the ages of 35 and 42, what happened? Is it major trauma? Is it loss of job? Or maybe you've experienced grief of some kind, or you had a shift. And in these 7 years, the soul goes from a very physical experience to now activating the spiritual side. And that's exactly what happened to me. And although numerology was a part of my life since I was a little girl from my great aunt, I never, ever thought I was going to be a professional numerologist. I was teaching first grade. Like,
Right.
what am I doing here? Right. And the soul shifted. And I took everything that I learned, that was my life path, that teacher, and now I applied it into a very original path. And that's where my heart and my soul has the most happiness, the joy, because I get to meet so many people. And every day it's an original conversation. Every day it's new and it's exciting. But the ones we suck at finishing things. We are, we're like a giant computer tab with like all these tabs are open. And so when you understand your life path, you're going to understand the positive, the negative, and it's not that you ever fix the negative or remove that shadow side. You learn to see it as a trigger, how to say, okay, I'm living in the ego right now because the ones are very egotistical. They're very demanding, very forceful, very bossy at times. They also have a lot of anger because they have all this fire energy because we're ruled by the sun. And if you understand, oh, okay, wait, I'm getting critical, I'm doing this, I'm living the lower side of this number right now. You can learn how to balance this energy and you can learn how to transmute that negative aspect into your power, into your greatness, which then becomes your gift of service to the world. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So I don't know if wait, did I answer your
You
question?
did. You did. You said so many things in there I want to talk about. So, the first thing I want to go back and say something about is you said something between the age of 35 and 42. So, this is a pattern that I have noticed myself with my clients and was quite literally setting up something because I want to do a study about this because it feels like almost, I mean, there are exceptions, of course, but almost every client that I work with, and myself included, that it was between those ages. And I had given the range between 40 and 45 is where I was seeing clients who say, oh, I've had this big life change. So much has happened. And I admittedly work with a lot of women. And so I was kind of sort of thinking about that. And I was wondering if that has something to do with the idea of children, right? Because there was a study that came out recently that talked about women with autism and how women are such high masking individuals that until they reach the point where their children are able to care for themselves, that autism tends to get very masked. And I kind of felt like, well, spirituality is kind of like that. And it seems like a lot of women around that age are tending to awaken. So I think it's super interesting that you said that. Is that something that you think that you feel is established in our plan when we come here, that age range is something that we've already chosen?
Yes. So we will move in cycles of 9 in numerology, but in the spiritual side. So you have to understand, I'm trained in two different systems. One is the Western numerology, and the other one is the spiritual map of life, which is the Hebrew numerology. And what I've done over the years is I've really seen the connection of the two. And what you're saying is, yes, okay, somewhere around the age of 40, but really it is that 7 year stretch between 35 and 42 where the soul goes through a spiral of some kind and they are no longer comfortable in their own skin. They no longer recognize themselves. So they're in this searching period. And what's happening is children, jobs, like you said, loss of life, moving, all of these major transits are happening. These major experiences are happening and it's reshaping you. And then from the ages of 42 to about 50-ish, we are trying to put that out into the world. And we're trying to become as one. And by the time you reach 52, you are smooth sailing into your own authentic self and no longer having to wear all these masks. And numerology, if we go back and we look at the cycles of life, it is such a pattern. And if you can sit there and see the patterns and how they repeat, then the next time they come up, you're going to be better prepared for it.
Yeah.
Like, for example, we have personal energy, we have universal energy, so the collective. Right now, 2025 is a 9 collective energy. It's a universal energy. It's the end of a 9 year cycle. It's birth and death, transformation, evolution, global impact, humanity, compassion, empathy. It's enlightenment, higher wisdom, but it's also every soul is coming into a position this year where they are being asked to look at their skill sets that they have acquired for the last 9 years. And how are they going to make a greater impact in the world by bringing this out? Wisdom and knowledge is only good if it's shared. If it's kept within you, it helps no one. So everybody, I guarantee you, every single person who's listening to this right now has asked themselves, In the year 2025, what can I do more of? How can I help the world? How can I make this a better place? How can I produce more love into this world? How can I help my family? I feel like something's missing. I feel like I'm destined for greatness. I feel like I should be doing something more. Everyone is asking because the nine demands it. So
Yeah.
if you know this prior to 2025, you will have already taken that risk. You'd put your work out, you'd start your book, you'd start your podcast because you know that the nine at the end of 2025, it's a whole new identity. And I like to explain it as the birth and the death like a pregnancy. So as a woman, is going through pregnancy for 9 months, that new identity is being formed. And you're surrendering to a higher power because you're just having faith. Okay, is my baby going to be okay? 10 fingers, 10 toes, healthy. You don't know if it's a boy or a girl. You have no
It's a lot of
control.
trust because you
A
can't
lot of
see
trust.
it.
You can't see it. And you have to trust and have faith that all is working out. That's the theme of the 9 year. And then you go through this really scary, anxiety-ridden, painful time of where you feel like something's being taken from you and it hurts and you are scared and it is ripped literally from you and you crumble. And through your tears and through your grief, that identity of Larissa before childhood, of motherhood, dies. I no longer know who Larissa was before that moment of that child being put in my arms. And then all of a sudden, I am Larissa the mother. I have
Right.
a whole new identity, a whole new perspective, all new worries, all new fears, all new anxieties. And I no longer introduce myself as Larissa. I say, hi, I'm so and so's mother. I'm
Right.
Maria's mother. I'm Gabby's mother. And that is what is happening to every single person on the planet on some level, personally, professionally, mentally, socially, economically, global. It's happening all around us.
It is. And I love how there's so many different aspects of spirituality, energy that are pointing to this. We're at the end of a Kali Yuga cycle. There's a lot in astrology that's pointing to a lot of ending of cycles and repeating of patterns. There's a lot of that happening. It's also the end of a turning. I don't know if you've read those books or heard about those. There's a book out talking about how every generation is a turning.
Okay.
And a set of four is one full one. And we're at the very end of that turning. And then the next generation comes forward with the new ideas. They start something new, they start to rebuild. And this is a cycle that you can see in humanity in perpetuum. As far back as you can look in history, this cycle repeats itself over and over again. And it ties in perfectly with what you're saying with astrology. I know it can be very confusing with numerology. Pardon me. I know it can be very confusing for a lot of people because there's so many different tools. There's numerology and there's astrology and human design. So how does numerology, if someone's looking at all these different tools, it's not about using one over the other, right? It's about learning how to use all of them together. So if I'm trying to think of a good way to phrase the question, but how does numerology work with some of these other tools that we have to help us have a more expansive understanding of ourselves?
So I love what you've just said because I don't think one is better or worse, right? They are all very important and they all have their own zone of genius, their own greatness. And I think that if someone has the ability to have all of these readings, obviously you're going to know yourself better, right? The more we learn about our birth chart, our design, our soul codes, our map of life, the better prepared we are. And what I tell all my clients is if you are drawn to astrology, that is where you start. If you are drawn to human design, that is where you start. If you're drawn to numerology, then that is where you start. People find me. I never pay for advertising and my social media is over 1 million followers and I did that organically and I trust and have faith that who needs numerology is going to come to me, right? And so the difference that I feel or what resonates with me is that I literally see numbers as a code for the steps that you need to take. Where I feel astrology has more of an overall feel, the numeric code from numerology is very specific to you because we may share the same birthday. We may share the same zodiac sign. We may share the same, characteristics, but my name, there's only one of me. And that name is a very unique code where in astrology, people might be born at the same time in the same location. So I feel like for me, numerology goes even deeper because there's only one of you. There's nobody else walking out in this world with my exact birth given name, first, middle, and last,
Right.
and birthday. It's not happening.
Right.
So I feel that my numbers are mine and I share them with no one else. I'll give you an example. My husband's an identical twin.
So is mine.
Oh, wow. Get out of here.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So astrology, right? They have the same zodiac. Their time change might be, a little off, but their name is what makes them so uniquely different.
Yeah. That's really good. That's great. I'm very curious if you could talk a little bit about the difference between Western and Hebrew numerology, because those are the things you focus on. So, what is the difference between those two?
So, Western numerology would be more about the life path, the destiny number, the heart, soul desire, the personality, personal year energy, personal cycles, themes, patterns, and challenges that the soul will have, like certain pinnacles. So, I love Western numerology for predictions, for future forecasting, for mapping out your life. So, like if you are in a relationship and you're like, I think this is going bad and I want to plan my divorce. You want a Western blueprint reading, you want a numerology reading, because I will tell you the exact month, week, and day that you should get that lawyer and serve those papers. And I'm only saying this because that's what I actually do with my best friend. And that's kind of what started all of this in some ways. So she was going through a really rough patch, and my intuition was like, we need to prepare for this. I said, but I was a baby numerologist. My kids were little, and this was many years ago. I said, we got to go to Aunt Rita. We got to go to Aunt Rita. So I took her to Aunt Rita and we did her chart, and Aunt Rita told her exactly when and where and what month and what day. And she gave her this like prescription. And this is why I love numerology. She was like, here you go. Here's the plan. Okay. It's
Yeah.
not fluff. Here's the plan. Follow this. And she used it. Okay. October, November, 2000, this, and she mapped it out. And she told me that in the darkest times and the scariest times of her life, she felt like she had support in the universe. And she had the courage to go through this and become a single mom. This helped her. And then I started bringing more of my friends to Aunt Rita. And I started to see that numerology wasn't just some fun thing, but it was a prescription, a strategy for healing. And I started to use it in my own life after the passing of my father and all these things. And I couldn't deny it anymore. Now, thousands and thousands of clients, of hours and readings, I started to notice that Western numerology, it felt very like tip of the iceberg. Like it still left my clients with a deeper longing for why they have blocks or why they can't break through this ceiling. And then I got trained in the Hebrew numerology, the spiritual map of life, which is your sacred soul contract decoded. And that is where I really went like, whoa, 7 levels deep. Now I am picking out your karma. I am identifying your spiritual talents, your spiritual karma, your spiritual goals, your physical talents, your physical karma, your physical goals, and it all comes together and gives you your beautiful destiny, the soul's dharma, the soul's mission. So Western numerology is going to tell us how to do it, but this is going to identify what it is. And I'll give you an example. So in the Hebrew form of numerology, my physical karma is a 5-5. It's a very rare karma. And this is all about past lives too. So we can go down that rabbit hole, right?
Right.
Of carrying on energy from unresolved trauma, unresolved pain, and what you didn't do in the past. And the negative side of the 5 is the fear of speaking. spirit of being seen, fear of the truth being revealed. The 5-5 will have a lot of secrets and they will feel like they have to hide themselves. But that's the pain point. That's the challenge. What we learn is how to transmute that and how to turn that challenge number, that karma, into your gifts of service to the world. My gift of service to the world is speaking my truth. Look what I do.
Right.
Look what I do for a living. I am living my truth. When I was a little girl, I now know it was a vision. I didn't know it at the time. Okay. So I want you to think like, 85, maybe I was probably like around fourth or fifth grade. So like I'm, born in 76. So let's just say somewhere around there. I was in math class. I hated math, which is really funny, right? A numerologist who hates. Okay. And I was daydreaming because your girl has ADHD, which, by the way, I have the karmic numbers of ADHD. So that's also in the spiritual map of life. Um, and I had this vision of myself standing on a stage speaking. And I saw it very clearly. I was speaking in front of thousands of people. And I came home and I told my mother, I said, Mom, when I grow up, I want to be a motivational speaker. I was 9. Like, what?
Right.
Right? But I believed that I was shown my destiny. And all my life, Larissa has a voice. Larissa has a gift. Every teacher, Larissa never shuts up. Oh, if she's so sweet, she's so kind, but she never sits, she never stops talking. We can't get her to stop talking. We can't get, well, maybe if my mom would have known that was my karma, she would have put me in speaking classes or put me on and done things. I had this craving to be on stage. So I would go and do plays and, the talent shows.
Yeah.
I had no idea that this is what I was supposed to do. Now, when my Aunt Rita trained me in this, I asked her a question, and I think you're going to appreciate this. I said to her, Aunt Rita, why did you do this all these years? Because she's 97, so you're talking, she paved the way for me and you. Like,
Yeah.
this was behind closed doors. You didn't say, oh, I have a numerologist. Like, we didn't
Oh,
see it,
absolutely.
oh my God. So she said, Larissa, do me a favor. Promise me you're going to get this information in the hands of women. Now, she could have said anything, but she said women. So I said, okay, why? She said, when a woman truly understands herself, the world becomes a better place. And then she will want to understand her children. And when she understands her children, she will have a better relationship with her children and she will raise better humans who truly understand themselves, who will go out into the world and do better things. So I really feel like all these years, when I do these readings, that I'm bringing you closer to yourself. And then maybe, Erin, you're gonna say, okay, you know what? I want to know my child's chart. Because had my mother known that that was my true karma, that was my gift of service to the world, she could have done things differently.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you if people get their charts done for their kids, because it seems like it would be a great help to know, hey, because my daughter is kind of like that. She's been in theater her whole life. She's always been in front of a crowd. She's always been like that. And it would have been helpful to know beforehand that this is where she'll thrive. This is where she's going to feel best about herself, so that I could have facilitated that as her parent.
Exactly. Right. So here's the thing. If you have a child under the age of 18, then I can do the charts. I could do the name energy because you gave them the name. Well, really, we can have that argument. They chose their name. That's
Right.
a whole other thing, right? But if they're over 18, I need physical written permission. It's an ethical thing.
Sure.
It's
Of course, I 100%. I'm right there with you.
You have to respect that.
I tell people all the time, I'm not meddling in anybody else's business. So unless they know I'm there, I'm not getting into it.
Yeah. So like I find it very interesting too. I just recently, obviously I've done my children's charts, right? Every year I do their charts, I do their numbers, I do everything. All 3 of my children have the same talent position, same talent number. I find that fascinating.
That is really interesting.
Right? It's and what you'll learn is certain family members will have the same numbers because they're here to help each other. But what's interesting is they might trigger each other. as a result of that because it's the same. So one might be living the negative and one might be living the positive, but really they're the same and they're like annoying the crap out of each other.
Right. But
You know?
that gives you exponential growth because when you have someone triggering you all the time, you're forced to deal with the trigger. You can't just keep pushing it aside. And the only way to grow is to deal with the trigger so that your vibration can rise. Absolutely. I love that.
And the other thing too is for people out there who don't know anything about numerology, if you were to take the day you were born, your birth date. So I'm born on the 1st, right? You're born on what?
The 29th.
Okay, so so you have a master birth date of 2 plus 9, which is an 11. So you are not born on the 29th. You're born on an 11-2 energy, okay? So what I find very interesting is, and this is just years of experience, I have seen this, but not many people teach it and not many people talk about it. So if you and your siblings share the same birth date number, you are karmically connected, you are soul tied, you have lived many lives together. So for example, my sister's born on the 28th, I'm born on the 1st, it's the same number. It's a 1. We are here to teach each other that one energy, and boy, are we opposite, and boy, do we trigger each other, but we need each other desperately. And I always say to my sister, if all these lifetimes, I will always choose you. She is my rock. She is my person. Okay. But we are polar freaking opposites.
Yeah.
Look at your birth date, look at your children, look at your spouses, look at your partners and say, oh, you're born on the 12th, you're born on the 3rd. That's a instant connection. You're born on the 30th. That's 3 energy.
Yeah.
And
My daughter is the 19th and my son is the 1st.
see? So when they're fighting, you'd be like, stop it. You guys chose each other.
Yeah, exactly. I want to ask you a little bit because for somebody who's maybe they like numerology a lot and they're feeling that pull because what I find is that once you find your thing, once you find your lane and you start learning about it, like you said, knowledge is meant to be shared. People start to feel that pull of I'm ready to do something with this. What made you take that step? You talked a little bit about your friend going through a hard time, but was there a point that you came to where you're like, no, I'm going to start really doing this and putting this out there?
So again, we're going to go back to that 35 to 42 stretch, right?
Right.
So for me, it came in a little bit earlier between like 32, 33, 34 was a very difficult time. And 34, I gave birth to my son, who is now 15, perfectly healthy, beautiful young man, right? Okay, no problems. But he had a near-death birth experience, stroke in utero. We almost lost him. Very difficult first 3 years of his life. Right before that, my father had passed. So it was like this bang, bang of trauma, of grief, of pain, of sadness, and uncertainty. And I was spiraling. I really was spiraling. I was crashing. And my aunt saw that. And I would call her every Sunday. And she said, Larissa, it's time. I didn't know this, but she had a drawer, which, oh, you just heard my New York accent. Big time. So she had a drawer where she had all of her work, and it was for Larissa because she had always known my chart and always known my healer potential and the numbers of the healer. But obviously she couldn't tell me because you can't interfere. I can only ask. You have to.
Right.
So she said, it's time that you start to learn because I'm getting older and this information should not be end with me. And I want to pass this on, but you have to ask me for help. So I said, okay, will you help me? And she said, yes. So I would go there every Sunday. I would bring her like bagels and coffee and crumb cake. And she was so cute. She would take her little white easel and she would teach me. And it just became something that I thought I was doing to help her. My father had passed. This was his favorite aunt. And he always made me a promise to always keep an eye and stay in touch with Aunt Rita. She basically raised him. And I honored that. So here I am going thinking I'm helping her. She's an older woman. This is her wish. We're good. But then she kept challenging me. Okay, do your friend's chart. Do this. What did you notice? What did you do? And I couldn't stop it. I literally couldn't stop this feeling that every time I helped someone, I was like, I want more.
Yes.
I want more. And at that particular time, I was going to help women go on Facebook Live and take their businesses and use social media to share their businesses because I was obsessed with social media. I just loved it. And I was helping this woman who was building my website in her life. We became friends. And I said, well, let me do your chart because I think it's going to help you. She had no idea what I was talking about. And I was like, you knucklehead. Like, what do you mean? You've never heard of numerology? Like, what around before like 500 BC? Like, what are you talking about? And in Babylonian time, like, what are you saying? And she's like, nope. And I did her chart. She was crying. It changed her life. It moved her. This is what you need to teach, Larissa. This is what you need to bring to the world. And I was like, oh, you're silly because it already exists. And then I went through that imposter syndrome. And the reason why I'm sharing the story, Erin, is because I know every listener that you have is on a spiritual journey. And every single one of them goes, I can't do that. There's already an astrologer. There's already a numerologist. There's already this. There's already a Reiki master. There's already that, which also I got certified in Reiki because my aunt was a Reiki master. So I started doing all of the energy awareness, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that imposter syndrome was just so large. And this woman said, please make a post on Facebook and just ask anybody if they would like their chart done. And I fought her and I fought her. And she said, I am not going to work with you or finish your website until you do it. So she forced me and I did it. And 10 people said yes. And then the rest is history.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that. There's a guy on TikTok. I don't know if you're familiar with him. It's Sailing with Phoenix, the guy that got the sailboat and
I love that story.
yeah, I do too. He said something in one of his videos that really caught me for a second. Someone had asked him what made him finally decide to buy this sailboat and sail from Oregon to Hawaii, even though he had this disease and all this stuff. And he said, well, I finally just had a dream bigger than my fear. And I thought to myself, that's exactly it. When your dream feels like it's calling you so strongly that you just have to push through the fear, that's how you know that's the thing for you. And if you can just give into it and say it's going to be okay and just go, it'll work out. And it may not look the way I think a lot of people expect it to look, but it will look the best way it can for you and it'll continue to grow. So that's so great that it just started that way for you.
And you know what too? I always had that feeling that you're talking about, like my life is meant for more. It's my life is not just for Larissa, if that makes sense.
Sure.
I always knew that I was destined to reach more people, serve more people. So I was scared. People will see me now. They're like, "Oh my God, you're so good on camera," or "You make all these videos," or "You have 1 million followers." And yeah, it means nothing because every time, I make a video, I still get nervous. But when I started, that fear was so strong. But I knew that if I didn't do this, that it would die with inside of me. Like Wayne Dyer says, do not let your dreams die, the music die with you.
Right.
If I don't give this a chance, if I don't go for it, okay, and the ones will always go for it, those life paths, they always will. I will never know how great I could have been. And I was willing to take that risk for the experience of just saying I tried. When I started on TikTok, 0 followers, 0 clients, 0 understanding of TikTok, 0 business being on social media. Okay. My kids were furious. They didn't want stay on Facebook where the old people are. Like,
Yeah.
don't go there, Mom. But my guides were calling me and pushing me. And I pushed that button and I knew that greatness was about to happen because I felt it. Like I felt like my guides were bringing me there. Do you know within 26 days, I went from 0 followers to 52,000 followers.
Wow. That's incredible. That's alignment. That's what that is. That's what alignment looks like.
That's what alignment looks like. I listened. I live intuitively, just like you. I listened. And that intuitive nudge is stronger than your fears. And if you're getting those nudges, those intuitive hits, those pulls, it's spirit's way of saying it will work out. Had I never started, Erin, you and I would not be here. Had I never started, I would not be working with John, on Evolve. I would not have any of these opportunities. But if you ask me, Larissa, do you feel fully ready today? The answer is no. I don't think you ever feel fully ready. But my gosh, you have to be willing to try. You have to take step 1 before you can get to step 100.
Right.
Yes,
so I
hope I answered your question.
I think we need to let go of the idea of perfection too. I get a lot of clients that are waiting for the perfect time. I'm waiting for the perfect time. I'm waiting for the perfect time. And I want to remind everybody, perfect means it's done. That means there's nothing more that can be done to it. That's not something to ascribe to. That's not something you want to try to reach, because that tells me that you don't want to grow anymore.
Right.
There's never going to be a perfect time. There's never going to be everything, all your ducks in a row. It's just the time is perfect when you take the step. If that's 2 a.m. or one
That's it.
afternoon.
So I'll use your children, motherhood, becoming a father, becoming a parent. Do you ever have enough money? Is everything perfect? Is everything in place? No, but you go for it and you figure it out and you make it work. And when it comes to spiritual awakening or the spiritual healer or the spiritual journey, there's so much stigma to it. There's so much, energy that people feel like, well, what are people going to think of me? I'm going to be judged. They're going to talk about me. They're going to say, who does she think she is? But my whole point was people are going to talk about you, whether you do it or you don't.
Right.
People are going to judge you, whether you do it or you don't. And what happened was for me, I wanted to prove to my children that life is not a straight path. You start out one way and you can end completely different. And at any given moment, life can turn and you can change your life and you can improve your life. And I wanted to prove to my children that you can be, do, or have anything at any age. And what better way than to show them by doing it by an example? Here I was, a former school teacher. I had not worked for many years, 3 children, and I was contemplating going back to work. And I was substituting and doing all those things, and they offered me a full-time job. And I turned to my husband and I said, if I take this job, I feel like I'm just going to die inside. And I feel like I'm never, ever going to fulfill my purpose and my dharma. And he said, okay, fine. If you want to become a professional numerologist, can you bring in X amount of dollars per month to help with this or that? I said, deal. Give me a challenge on. I surpassed my teaching salary. Like, what?
Yes. And that's the thing I tell people a lot too, because I have a very similar story. I was teaching at the university, so a teacher as well. And it took me a year to leave the university because it's not like I woke up one day and said, oh, I'm going to do this for a living. Because obviously we live in a physical world and has all these requirements, and I had people counting on me. But what I did do is I slowly started moving myself in that direction. And what that looked like for me is I stopped taking on any new projects at work. And then I started giving away old projects at work. And then I slowly pulled myself out of it. And at the same time, I was making a plan in my mind of what do I want to do? How do I want my days to look? And when I went to my husband, who is not into spirituality at all, he's a very practically minded person. And I said to him, hey, this is what I want to do. And he started to have that reaction of, no, you can't do that. I was able to say, but wait, I've been thinking about it. And here's how I'm going to do it. This is the plan, right? And then I tried to be considerate with him and say, I understand you don't know what I'm doing. I get it. I know you don't get it. It's not part of your thing, but I know you love me and I know you trust me. So all I'm asking you to do is trust me. And in return, I set a 6-month limit. And I said, in 6 months, we'll sit down and we'll reevaluate this. If you are not comfortable, if you feel unsafe, if you feel like things aren't working out, I 100% will do something different to help bring that back in. But if I don't try this, I will forever feel like I should have. And right now feels like the perfect time for me to do it. And he said, okay. And just like you, within 6 months of leaving the university, it was not even a thought that I would ever need to go back, because I started doing the thing that felt aligned with me and things just worked out. And it's not like, it's not like I have houses on beaches everywhere, but my bills are paid and I'm provided for and I have what I need and I feel safe and confident and I get to enjoy what I do every day. And I keep telling people, if you wait until someone gives you permission, you're gonna wait forever, because no one has the ability to feel that excitement like you do. No one can feel that but you, because it's meant for you,
I love that. Let me ask you a question. You're human design. Are you a projector or a manifester?
A projector.
Of course. So it's interesting because your birthday, which is the 2, they are not the ones who go and make things happen. They're the receivers. Okay. It's the feminine energy. So everything has to just come to them. They have to prepare and then allow and come. And that's projectors as well, right?
Yes,
Everything. So see, this goes back to how everything kind of connects.
absolutely.
Um, and I think it's very interesting what you said about how it's about alignment. Because I think over the years, the more I try to force things, the worse it is for me always. And if you are on the spiritual journey, or if your listeners are thinking, I want to do this, automatically someone thinks, well, I can't be an astrologer if if I work at a car dealership. Those two
Right.
don't. But this is not about one versus the other. This is about a blending.
Absolutely.
And you can be, a pediatrician by day and a human design teacher by night. It's very much not a choice. And I think the problem for many people is they feel they have to make a choice to live a spiritual life or to live this very corporate 3D life. And I think the nine in 2025 is trying to teach us that you can merge these because we are spiritual beings having a human experience, and that your human experience can be whatever you want it to be.
Right.
Before this actually happened, for me, going from mom, teacher, stay at home mom to professional numerologist, I had to merge this. I had to merge it. And I started to look in the mirror and say, hi, my name is Larissa, and I'm an intuitive numerologist helping millions of people all around the world decode their numbers, or live according to the numbers. And I say it now effortlessly. But at that time, I couldn't say it because that's not true. I don't have clients. I feel like a fake. I feel like a fraud. I feel like I'm lying to myself. So if you're out there and you're listening to this and you have an idea that you want to be in a spiritual space, start speaking that identity to it in existence, and it will merge. And
Yes.
I call it the elevator. Imagine you're on an elevator with me or with Erin, and someone pushes, the third floor or the fifth floor, and you literally have 30 seconds to introduce yourself. Hi, my name is Larissa, and I'm da. You need to do that.
Yep.
If you want to take on a new identity, you have to see it in your mind and you have to merge it to your existing one. I don't know what made me say that, but I hope it was helpful.
Yes, I think that's 100% true. That this universe it's I think so many people struggle with the idea that everything is so or in this universe, but it's not. This is an and universe. More than one thing can be true at a time because we're all individual. And when we start recognizing that, the possibilities open up in front of you. The whole year that I was separating myself from the university, I was going live on TikTok in my spare time because I wanted to see what it felt like, because I didn't want to leave my job and then do something else I didn't want to do. Right. So I started saying, well, if this is what I want to do, let's see what it looks like. So I went live on TikTok. The first time I went live on TikTok, it was terrifying. I was so terrified. There was nobody in my room. I felt like such a failure, all these things. And I got off of there and I thought I sat there for a good like 20 minutes, just ruminating. No one came in, no one, just doing the whole thing. And then I started thinking about how it felt the first time I interacted with a patient as a nurse. I was scared to death. I was so scared I was going to mess up and hurt somebody. But look where it took me when I pushed through this. I climbed as high as I could as a nurse, went back and got my master's degree, was teaching medicine. It's like you have to let the fear be the driving factor sometimes.
Have to.
And also something I've noticed, and you said something about this that brings this up again, is the things that I tend to have the most resistance to. Once I push through it, that tends to be the thing that I really needed to address. For me, that's my YouTube channel. I had a friend who for a solid year was telling me, you got to get on YouTube. And I'm like, nope, not going to do it. Don't want to do it. Not interested. And one day she came over and she brought her laptop and she sat down and she said, we're doing this right now. And I, oh, fine. So I did it. And that turned into the biggest help for me professionally because it has a different audience than TikTok and it has a different audience and all these things. And I had fought it.
By the way,
what's that?
you just gave me a message without knowing it.
Okay. Well, I love how that works.
Because I pay no attention to my YouTube. And I was saying, I think I need to pay more attention to my YouTube. What do I do with my YouTube guides? Should I go live on YouTube? Should I teach classes on YouTube? Here you are.
There it is.
There it is. So
Yep.
there's the synchronicity right there.
Exactly. And it's you have to push past the thing you're most afraid of. And I understand that there's plenty of good reasons to be fearful, but your fear is never going to get you anywhere but keep you where you are,
So
you know?
here's what's interesting too. A lot of people, and I guarantee you felt this. So when they're starting out in this spiritual space, they think no one's going to want their service, their knowledge, their abilities, or their offer because they're basing it upon their 15, 20, 30 family members, right? Or
Right.
their circle. But here's what I'm going to say that I had to learn. Your gifts will not even be recognized by the people closest to you for years to come. So what happens is you think you're going to help your people first, and then you're going to go out, and that's not what happens.
Nope.
You go out and you build credibility and you help strangers off the internet, and then all of a sudden it goes into your small world where the people are like, "Oh, wait, I need help from you." Right? I'll give you an example. I come from a very large Italian family. We have a lot of cousins. I've grown up with them. They are like sisters and brothers to me. Every Sunday, we had dinner at grandma's house. We all went to the same school. Like we'd go to each other's sporting events. Like they are my people. And we have a cousins chat. Everybody's got a family chat, right? We got the cousins chat.
Yes.
And there's always one person in the group that they make fun of. Like there's always one cousin. Well, I am that cousin. They always are making fun of me. So when I really started doing this, they had their opinions. And some of them were loving, but not with underhanded, like, passive aggressive comments or
Right.
who the hell's going to pay for you? Okay, yeah, we're going on social media. You're insane. Like, and now they will not make a decision without my charts or what's my
Yep.
year? Wait, I can't buy a house this year. Okay, wait, what about my kid? So that's my example of do not let your circle dictate your greatness or your do not let your circle limit you from the impact that you can make in this world. They
Yes.
are not the reason you should or should not do this.
Right.
You need to do this because it's part of your purpose and your dharma.
Yes, absolutely. And, same thing for my husband. He was very, very, you can't do this. It's not going to work, all this sort of stuff. But just by living by example, right? Someone who is a complete non believer in what I believe or says he is anyway, just by living by example, he cannot help himself because he can't deny what he's seeing with his own eyes.
Our
So
husbands are a
now,
lot alike.
right. So he'll start asking me questions like, what's that mean? And what's that? And, or if we're turning on a movie, my favorite thing he's been doing recently is we sat down to watch a movie and he paused it and he looked at me and he goes, no psychic on this movie. I want to watch the movie. And I said, okay, I'm sorry. He's like, you're always telling me how things are working. I need
Yeah.
to figure it out,
Well,
but
my
it's
husband will be like, "Can't we just talk about normal things?" I'm like, "No," but he has seen the work, he has seen the healing, and he can't deny it. And like you said, oh, him and his business partners, they just wanted me to do their chart because, when you're in business with other people, it's not just about your numbers, it's about your
right.
your partner's numbers. And, I gave them a complete like 30-page spread of what to do, when to invest, when to do this. So now they come to me. My children were embarrassed of this or hid me in some ways, like didn't tell anybody. Now I'm the coolest thing since sliced bread. And, every one of their friends wants a love reading of this reading or what's my boyfriend's numbers, what's that? So again, right, you're going to go out and then it's going to come back.
Right.
So I really hope that somebody listening to this, that this inspires them to take that leap of faith because I thank God every single day I did.
Yeah. And, something that I started to do for myself and that I've told other people is with my husband specifically, because he was not on the same wavelength as me and didn't understand what I was talking about, what I did is I stopped sharing things with him sometimes because he doesn't feel the same excitement and it would reduce my excitement. So what I tell people is don't hide it, but wait for them to ask,
Yes.
live your life, be who you are, but wait for them to ask because when they ask, you have their attention and they actually want to hear what you're saying. And it's been very helpful.
And that's the same thing with readings. You never ask someone, "Do you want a reading? Do you want this?"
Right. Oh
Oh,
my
no.
gosh.
No, 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 no. And that's why I get so mad with the spammers because, and I know you have spammers
Oh,
too.
so
You
bad.
go into social media and you put in goddess giving, there's hundreds and hundreds of spammers with my face on it. But a real ethical, spiritual healer, guide, creator, psychic, medium, they will never ask because it goes against everything we believe in. You
Yes,
come to us because
absolutely.
then the information is worthless.
Well, and it's about accountability too. Like, I want to help you, but I'm not going to force feed it to you.
Because
When
then you're
you're
not ready.
right, when you're ready for the information, you'll feel ready to ask me, and then I'm going to give it to you. Which brings me to one last question I want to ask you about because I've seen this with some clients too. All readings are not all love and light, right? There's a lot of things in there that we have to take accountability for, our own actions that have put us in the position in which we find ourselves. And sometimes it can be hard when your chart says, hey, maybe it's you that's the problem. So, what do you tell people when they see those things in their chart? How do they sort of work with that instead of getting caught in the lower feeling of, oh, I'm a terrible person? How do we use that constructively?
That is such a great question and so powerful and so important because I have learned when you're working with people and they're coming to you, no one comes to me when life is roses and rainbows. They're coming to me when there's despair, chaos, turmoil, lack of clarity. So they're at a low point. And I take it very seriously. So when I see these negative aspects or these indicators that they have put themselves in this situation, I will discuss the negative aspects and then I will ask them, how has this shown up for you in your life? And then they have to tell me, well, I experienced it with this partner and that. So I'm making them speak it out.
Right.
And then what I do is I give them strategies to transmute it. Because I don't believe in erasing the past. I don't believe in living in the past. I don't believe in dwelling on it either. But it is a great indicator of what will keep happening if we don't identify why it's happening.
Yes.
So part of the my job is to take that negative component, that negative aspect when the number's in a challenge position and transmute that into the higher side, the positive side, the, optimal position. And that's the power position. So what I'm really showing them is their weakness is actually their greatest strength.
Yeah, I love that. I really do love that because it's true. It's 100% true. And once you recognize that, boy, it changes things a lot. I used to be, my mom used to get on me because you used to talk a lot in school. I never talked in school. And I got notes home. She never raises her hand. She never does anything. Is she even breathing? That kind of stuff. And what I recognize is part of my gift is perspective. And the reason I'm so quiet is because I'm observing the perspectives and I'm taking it in from different angles. So when you do ask me, I can give you more than one viewpoint on something because I've detached myself from it. And I did that when I was little. I've done it as an adult. I've done it forever. And something that I was constantly being told I had to change about myself has turned into one of those things that I'm very grateful that I have. So I would tell that to anybody when you start seeing these things and you get that clutch in the middle of your stomach, you're like, oh, I do that. Well, maybe, but there's more that you can do from that. Like, how can you use that? What can you go? Where can you go from there? That's the thing that's most important.
Yeah, I love that.
All right. So you have a lot going on. So tell the listeners all the wonderful places they can find you and how they can get a reading with you and all the stuffs.
So thank you, Aaron. I really appreciate your time. And I love that you're doing this, first of all, and putting this out there because the world needs more of you. So even I know that there's no coincidence that we've connected. I think you're a beautiful soul. I think you have very gifted, and the world is better as a result of you. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
For me, I went through goddess giving as my brand. Because my guides told me that I had to give to the goddesses. And I didn't think people would remember Larissa Martinsik. So I just, in my mind's eye, I heard goddess giving, So on all my socials, I'm goddess giving. There's only one, I will never reach out. I will never DM. You can go to thegoddessgiving.com. But currently, right now, I do 3 different types of readings, and I'm actually going to be opening up a group program. So the blueprint reading is like a 45-minute, just what we talked about, like where we're going through your numbers and future forecasting and mapping out 3, 6 months or a year of what to do and how to handle certain challenges in your life and how to understand your soul code and how to make it, better decisions. But then we have the what I call soul contract readings. That's the Hebrew numerology. That's going deeper into your karmic energy and your positions and how to really find your purpose and make that your gift of service to the world. And then I have a reading that blends the two. Okay. I have a private group, but that's changing and evolving. What I'm really excited about is I usually host a free webinar once a month for the soul contract. So stay on the lookout for that. I am going to be launching a 4-week, what I call soul contract alchemy program. So I'm going to be teaching the karmic contracts and I'm
Oh,
going to
I
be
love it.
breaking it down, how to use this in your life. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, that's how they can find me. All my stuff is there on thegoddessgiving.com or any type of social media outlet.
Yeah. And you'll see her all over. You're all over my TikTok. I see you all the time. Look at the number on the clock right now. Like, I love it. I see it all the time. I absolutely love it. I will say to anyone who's listening, the session I've only had one session with Larissa, but the information that you gave me, I just think you need to know that it literally took me to the next level. There was a few suggestions that you gave me that at the time I was like, I don't know about that. But then when I did it, I was like, oh my gosh, wow, I should have done that. And there were so many that I don't even want to give details, but there were so many. And you were so clear about it. You're like, you need to be doing this and this and this and this. And I was like, oh, okay. And then here I am. I implemented, I'd say 95% of what you said, and it made a huge difference. Um, I
I
love
love
the
that.
I
Thank
love
you.
the way you talk to people. I love how clear and honest you are, which is wonderful. It has been an absolute joy to talk to you. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Make sure you check out thegoddessgiving.com. All of her stuff will be linked in the notes for the show. Please check her out. And you guys have a great afternoon.
Bye. Thank you.